My name is David Taylor. I'm running for Route 1 at large, which basically means you have to come from either the north side or the west side, but it's a citywide race. I have a business background. I've got 4 different companies that I'm either the president or the vice president of. One is an air conditioning business. The air conditioning business and our off season, we will build houses, residential properties, so we're in the construction business as well. I've got a law firm downtown in the Blackstone building and also a private investigative agency. I personally believe that our city council needs to be filled with people that have business backgrounds, that know what it means to run a business, to run a calculator, to hire people or fire people, that have looked at employees and say, I don't want to let you go, but maybe I can't afford to pay you what I paid you last year. I think people with a business background have the right pedigree or the right resume, so to speak, to make good city councilmen. So that's why I'm running, because of that background and the experience that I can bring to the council. This is a sacrifice for me. This is not about a job. This will be a pay cut for me. I've got a plan in place to turn over my involvement in several of those companies so that I will have the time to serve the city. Not planning on, I don't see myself wanting to use this as a stepping stone to get anywhere. I just want an opportunity to serve the citizens of Jacksonville for probably 4 years and do what I can to make Jacksonville the best place it can be. I'm born and raised in Jacksonville. Win, lose, or draw, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to raise my family here. I've got a little girl that's 8, a wife that's been married 11 years. We care about Jacksonville, and I want to try to make Jacksonville a better place and do my part to give back.
Okay, what do you consider to be the basic core functions of our local city government?
At the very core, I think we need to provide for safety of our citizens. That means police and fire. That means rescue. I think it boils back down to food, clothing, shelter. What the government's got to do to provide those basic necessities. Those are our core functions.
What specific savings do you believe can be found in the upcoming budget? Please be specific regarding areas of programs such as the Jacksonville Journey, JADC, Cultural Council, special events, and public safety, or any others that come to mind that you've identified specific savings.
I believe that it's borderline inappropriate to sort of just reach out there and start throwing names at different things that we could look to cut. I believe that to say that right now is a little bit unfair. I believe a council person is going to have to get a hold of that budget. Is going to have to go through it again with that business background. Look at what we're spending money on, and does that go to our core function? And just like I run my private household, if you can't afford it, then you shouldn't try to do it. Getting specific, and I don't mean to say that I'm gonna go in day one and start eliminating programs and fees, because I don't know enough about those programs and fees to make those decisions. But I know our Children's Commission, some of the things that we're doing in our library system, in our building department, in our code enforcement division. I think we're spending way too much money in those areas. But again, not being on the city council, not being privy to all the information, I'm not here to try to tell you I'm going to go in with an axe the first day and try to make changes. But that's my gut feeling, is that there's money to be saved in those areas. Those aren't core functions. If you look at my literature, I didn't just specially devise this for you guys. This is my mail piece that I'm sending out citywide. My plan is to look to cut taxes, reduce wasteful spending, but to tell you specifics, I don't know that anyone in this chair, unless they've already been on and they're an incumbent, is really privy to access to the kitchen, so to speak, to really look at what we're spending money on and making those decisions at this point without hearing from all sides.
All right, fair enough.
All right.
Okay. Are there any fees that have been put in place by the current government that? Oh, wait a minute. I'm jumping a cog here. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, that's my question. What do you believe is the solution to our city employees' pension problem, and what steps would you take as a city council member, knowing that the administration is doing the negotiation, but what did you as a city council member do toward that solution?
You know, I think again, it's once you're on the council, I think you're going to be entitled to see the checkbook, so to speak, and really look to get into the city's budget. And I think first of all, we've got to figure out what the situation is and get out of it being a media debate and little zingers back and forth, but really get down to the nuts and bolts in terms of, you know, what is the city's financial house, what is its situation. I believe that right now that there are two different opinions as far as factually where the city's at financially in terms of its financial health. So I think the first step is to figure out what that situation is. Just like any other, if I was hired as a CEO to come in and take over your business and run it for you for the next 5 years while you were going off on some adventure, that's how you would start, by getting a hold of the facts and coming to an understanding as to what those facts are. Once you have that, I think ultimately there are going to be some problems, some shortfalls, and as you mentioned, the pension. I think that we're going to have to sit down with those different organizations, whether it's the police, the fire, the city, and we're going to have to make some tough decisions. But I think the important part of it is to go to them with integrity on your behalf, and then with an open book, and show them that, hey, I'm not out to get you. I'm not trying to cut into what you're making. I'm trying to show you the checkbook, so to speak, and show you what there is to spend, and let's sit down collectively and start thinking of a solution. What I anticipate will ultimately happen, specifically in terms of the pensions, I think at a minimum we're probably going to have to draw a line in the sand between the new people coming on and the people that have already been hired. I don't think financially. Now, if we can afford it, I'm a supporter of our first responders. I don't want to cut into their budget. I don't want to ask them to serve and make less if we don't have to. But again, if you don't have it, you don't have it. We can't pay it out. But I believe probably there's going to be a line in the sand. The new guys coming on are going to be under a different pay system, a different set of promises in terms of what their pension expectations are. And I would look to try to protect and keep the promises that the city's made previously for those guys that are on this side of the line, if the budget will allow it, if the finances will allow it without raising taxes. If it comes down to a decision where it's either raise taxes and or delve into the pension and the budget for these guys that are already on, that are on this side of that line, I'm not for raising taxes. I'm looking to cut taxes and reduce fees, but I'm hoping we can do that on that side of the line. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Are there any fees that have been put in place by the current government that you would attempt to reduce or remove, and how would you cover any revenue shortfalls that result?
Stormwater fees, we want to see those repealed if possible. You're right, then we would create a revenue shortfall. In the short term, I don't really know the answer to that. I mean, I know that there are some options out there. I don't know what the best option is. But in the long term, I think growth is the way we do that. I think if we get rid of the red tape and get rid of the bureaucracy with trying to pull a permit on a building that you want to go vertical with, we reduce the red tape, we reduce the cost of concurrency. We generally just make it easier and cheaper to start going vertical with a project that will create jobs, that will create people moving to Jacksonville, people buying houses, people then paying property taxes, and our revenues will increase. The only problem with doing that with a growth mentality, which first of all, Jacksonville is very blessed. We've got the port, we've got Cecil Field, we've got so much opportunity for growth without interfering with our lifestyle. The problem is that will fix things in a 12 to 24 month type of window. We'll start to see the benefit of that. In the short term, it's going to be some tough decisions. I think we're going to have to deal with the shortcomings in terms of revenue by cutting costs, by cutting salaries in some instances, by cutting services, and by limiting what the government provides. And we're going to have to do more with less, but we're also going to have to do less with less, provide less of a service in certain areas until that development mentality starts to kick in, and we start to see some growth and some additional tax revenues as a result of those policies.